The meditation mistake most college freshmen make is they stop at just being present with the breath. This is a great start. I did it for 2 years when I was at Cornell University before changing. But the problem is without understanding why you're doing it or what it's actually developing, you can get stuck meditating for years without much progress. That's why we need a map. And it's why I sequenced all elite college freshman ego development stages through 5 stages of pursuing deeper success, happiness, and love. I call it the conscious college journey. It's made from conversations with 50 plus freshmen, the integration of 3 of the most complex human development models ever made, Cook Greuter's 9 stages of ego development, spiral dynamics, and Wilber's integral theory. I borrow a term that Wilber uses to describe this form of meditation, and that is integral meditation. It's about using the conscious college journey as a map to more peace, more calm, and more focus while benefiting your schoolwork, your relationships, and your happiness. It can do this because integral meditation integrates, I know, genius naming, 2 meditation pathways that have never been combined in history. And that is growing up and waking up. Growing up and waking up are the hidden grammars that Wilber has described as long guiding your whole life. And not just in college. They are the pathways through which true success, true love, and true happiness come from. And so in this video, I want to dive into how we can use the pathways of growing up and waking up to deepen our meditation profoundly. Let's dive in. Firstly, using meditation to grow up, integral meditation, that is. I had one of my most profound meditation experiences a few weeks ago, which is I was going through a tough separation with a former employer because I told them I was beginning a master's program in Universiteit de Twente this September, and I wanted to work part-time for them, but that was a nada, not going to work because everyone else was working full-time. And so in less than a week, they took away my Google access, my job, and my dignity. They didn't like the part in part-time work, apparently. And unfortunately, we don't live in medieval times, so I couldn't challenge them to a duel. But instead, I performed our generation's manner of fighting back and meditated. And in that meditation, I realized that there was a reason that separation worked the way it did, which is my boss was predominantly what I call a cosmic climber. That is the orange stage of the conscious college journey, whereas I was trying to ground in the cosmic wizard, teal. That's 2 structure stages above orange, and our conflicts with each other were mostly caused by that difference. We were simply living in 2 different realities. My righteous anger was turned into compassionate understanding as I realized this. And inside of the relationship, that was a bad thing at first because I was too blindly compassionate, too staying in the work relationship when it wasn't working. But realizing this afterward made it crystal clear. From his position, he was the reasonable one, and he always was. And that's the thing about where you stand, is it seems like the place to stand. And this is the power of integral meditation for growing up. Growing up is developing how we perceive the world, how we make meaning through different intelligences and perspectives. And in the conscious college journey, growing up moves through a series of structure stages, each one more wide, more complex, more loving. Think of it like upgrading your iPhone, except instead of getting a slightly better camera and supporting capitalism, you're getting an entirely new way of perceiving reality. And the stage you're grounded in determines what you can even perceive. A student grounded in the stage I call cosmic climber cannot see why their worldview might be limited, not because they're They're dumb, but because that's the nature of the structure stages, it's hard to read a map that you don't know exists in the first place. Growing up is also where your emotional intelligence, your cognitive complexity, and your capacity for genuine intimacy and leadership all live. This is the pathway that most of Western psychology and therapy and education has been trying to develop. So, integral meditation accelerates growing up because instead of just focusing on the breath, you attune to present experience and identify structure stage elements. Attunement simply means being present with non-judgment and caring intent. And then as things come into consciousness, you identify what stage they're at. I clocked my boss's valuation of meritocracy as orange and my intimacy hunger as green. And you can do the same in your own experience. Clock the grade evaluation and super hardworking part of you as more orange, and the part of you that's deeply soft and emotionally intelligent is green, and much, much more deep than that. And the beautiful thing is that when you become aware of these structure stages, you start to loosen your grip on them, just like I did with noticing where my boss was. So growing up is one of the beautiful aspects of integral meditation, but there are two aspects, and the other one is waking up. They deepen each other. They're not completely separate, but they are potentially, you can grow in one without growing in the other, which is why it's so important to discuss both. So, waking up. Let me give you a little story to elucidate waking up. For my first 2 years at Cornell, I was convinced that I'd already woken up. I meditated every morning. I ate on schedule. That was so exact, you could probably have set the campus clock tower to it. I think it was like 8, 12:30, 3, and then 6:30. Yeah, and there was like no drift allowed. I literally would not get lunch with a friend if it was 30 minutes outside of one of those windows. And I knew my body the way an accountant knows a ledger. Every calorie weighed against every calorie burned, and I was terrified of the day that the balance might slip. I was paying ferocious attention to my body, but it never occurred to me to do attention to the thing doing the paying. And that's when I met Chris, who's still one of my best friends to this day. Chris was 50, non-binary, and they spent most of their days doing yoga and meditating outside of work. Nothing about them resembled me, but that's actually what made the relationship so powerful, because I began to see what it meant to have a deeper relationship to spirituality through their own essence, but also a book club that we have had reading like Siddhartha and Endymion and the Enchiridion, and the differences in how we interpreted it, because they were in their 50s and I was 19 at the time, was crazy. So somewhere in there, for the first time, I watched my thoughts from the outside. And they were not good. They were like, don't eat that, don't want to be fat again, stop resting, lazy bum, go make something. These were voices that I'd mistaken for me, and only then realized that I was trapped in the movie theater of life, watching them control me. The problem was never my body. The problem was that I forced the body into a cage, and I've been polishing the bars and calling it self-improvement. And so what shifted was how I related to meditation. I started to do what I now understand as waking up. Waking up is about developing what you make meaning of in growing up, the depth of your consciousness from gross waking experience into subtle, into causal, and ultimately into enlightened non-dual states. This area of spirituality comes from Eastern traditions, mostly like Taoism and Taoism. Well, those are the same thing. Taoism and Hinduism and Buddhism and more. And now we're integrating them with the Western spiritual traditions that mostly go into growing up. So it's essential that we understand both pathways because of that. Just as growing up moves through structure stages, waking up moves through state stages. And those 4 stages go gross, then subtle, then causal, and then non-dual. The growth state involves awareness of our physical matter, our body, and the external world as a whole. Now, there's nothing wrong with the growth state. It's what most people are in. But the trouble starts the moment we decide that it's the only room in the building, right? As a freshman, I mistook challenges like burnout, like difficult friendships or hard classes as being external to me, like objective aspects of reality. And I didn't realize that I was creating those challenges through my perception of them, which isn't to say that external changes don't matter, but we need to go to the subtle state to realize the next nuance, which is when we get this, more subtle with our consciousness. We realize that it includes things like intuition, insight, bodily energy waves, vision logic, and archetypal imagery. The key shift is in the growth state, life happens to us from the outside. And in the subtle state, we start to recognize that life is our inner world to some degree, our emotions, our interpretations, our energy. And this is why just being present alone in meditation plateaus. It quiets the gross mind, sure, but integral meditation takes us further. It takes us into the subtle territory where real insight, creativity, and intuitive intelligence lives. And this is where the greatest artists and scientists and religious leaders of history live. But it's not the deepest. Then we go into the causal state, which is where we really ground in the constructive nature of all reality. We see the self-witness, the awareness which sits behind all of conscious experience. Like a person watching the movie of our own life, we watch that which never is watched because it is the watcher. We see how all of conscious reality is created before our very eyes, how there is this awareness that just watches us perceive things. And the reason this is so powerful is imagine how grounding that is. Anytime you're stressed or sad or don't have enough peanut butter, then you can ground in this awareness behind everything anytime. It's very beautiful. But even that is not the last step. The last step is the non-dual state, which takes the causal further without even having a notion of a witness and a witnessed. That's still a duality, and reality is not a duality. So it dissolves it. And the boundary between self and other collapses, where you're left with a complete union of you and everything else. What you were always are, and always will be, the true self, spirit, one, God. This is our deepest nature, our original form, and what makes up all of reality. It's what all religious and spiritual traditions are pointing towards in one way or another, even if we don't realize it. And it's where true success, true love, and true happiness are found in college. So meditation was never about just being present with the breath. It was about growing our consciousness with a map, both growing up and waking up. We can identify the structure stages that we're inside of and craft the ladder ourselves rather than just hoping it slides into place by fate. We can identify what state stages we're in and try and grow from gross to subtle to causal to non-dual. Some mornings, the map's going to feel useless because it can't go so fast. It's a map, but it's not a pill in order to instantly embody the deepest structure stages and state stages. But one day, our consciousness will be so radiant that it ripples out and affects other people. It affects the student sitting next to us in the lecture hall, the roommate that we can't stand, and the stranger on the bus. And then everyone else will start growing their growing up and waking up journeys. But by then, you'll already realize that it's not a one-way gift, because helping them wake up was you helping yourself wake up and grow up at the same time. The map was never something to finish, and neither are you. So you sit down tomorrow, you close your eyes, and you meditate gloriously again. That's it. If you like this video, check out my college freshman cosmic journaling kit. It's free And it's a gamified journaling system that helps you grow your emotional intelligence, your self-understanding, and your purpose in just 15 minutes a day. You can check that out in the description below. As always, I hope you have a phenomenal, splentastic rest of your day. Eat some peanut butter, and bye-bye.